Hey, welcome everybody. This is John Palmer to Start Speed Selling. This is Raging Verbalist number 309. For those who are keeping track, why aren't you keeping track? What the hell? Come to you every single Friday. YouTube, Facebook. My Facebook has Position to Win book. I think it's Position to Win book or Position to Win. Anyway, it's all about this book, right? So let's get kicked off and started. Typically, don't dive too deep into politics, but that may be changing. We've got a new year coming up. But anyway, let's talk about what we have to do today. Let's talk about the concept of future proofing. Now, this is kind of popular out there. People talking about, hey, let's go out and do that. Originally, it started by saying, can we look out over the horizon a little bit to make sure that we don't make decisions that are so backward leaning that we are not obsolete as soon as we get started? And the answer to that is that was a great idea and concept. It's kind of morphed into what I think is a ridiculous idea and incident of where people are saying, "Hey, it's a folly." Actually, is what I'm going to say. And it's a folly because just take what I'm doing right now. So I'm now using a new Osbot camera that I bought, and it is better resolution than I had before, which is better resolution I had before that. So future proofing would have meant that I would have purchased something that would have just glided through the future. It's not the way that thing works. And the problem with it is that you're predicting the future. Now, if you're good at predicting the future, yeah, put a comment down below and a way to contact you because we can go to Vegas and make a lot of money by predicting the future. Future is hard to predict. That's why future proofing is kind of this catch all, feely good. Now, I'm not saying that you should always go out and buy the oldest something, but it's ridiculous to think that you're ever going to truly future proof anything, not really future proof it. So the fiction is that most of the people who talk about how they've been able to do this is they do some backdating to pump up their predictions to prove what's going on. I had a stock newsletter that I subscribed to, or a financial guy, and the thing is that he didn't put his losses down, which kind of reminded me of my Vegas days. People never remember what they lost; they only remember what they won, and they lost a lot of money in the process. So reality bites, and this is where the rubber meets the road. And this is we'll give you a couple of examples to show you that I'm not just blowing smoke. Wi-Fi, so Wi-Fi, wireless. People have been talking about it for a long time. You go into a hotel or someplace and say, "Do you have Wi-Fi?" "Oh, we got Wi-Fi." "Is it high speed?" "Oh, it's high speed," which is meaningless because first off, there are no things called flying cars. There's none of this other stuff that we were predicting about. We don't have a nuclear reactor that's small enough to fit in your backyard. None of that shit happened. Now, the problem with Wi-Fi, as I see it, is that Wi-Fi standards have changed over and over and over and over again. And if you think that Wi-Fi has stayed steady, now has it improved? Yes. But can you future proof it? No. Because as you and I are sitting here, somewhere deep in the bowels of technology land, there's somebody working on the next thing. Because like Wi-Fi 6 is out, but now we got Wi-Fi 7. We have more bandwidth. We have more different frequencies. We have all of that happening. Now, my house is a Faraday cage. Go Google it. But essentially, it's a lath and plaster house, which means it is anathema, fancy way of saying it sucks for Wi-Fi. So I've had to work through this, and I've spent a lot of time and energy and money trying to fix it. I now have a mesh architecture. I use Eero, EERO. Don't get any dough from them, but I do like their customer service. I like their products. Other than the fact that, how about my future proofing? They sent me a notice. "Dear John," never a good sign, but it happens by name. "Dear John, guess what? Your old Eeros are done. They're kaput, done. Bye-bye. Toss them out." And by the way, we're going to give you a deal on upgrading. So I had to upgrade, but of course, I had options. Did I buy the most expensive one? Because see, when people tell me about they want to do future proofing, I go, it all comes down to number one, how much do you want to spend? And number two, are you going to pick the right direction for all this stuff? So there you go. My favor, of course, is that, that my wife had some health conditions, and the medical monitoring came in, and they said, "Hey, we want to send you this medical monitoring device, so that way, your wife can have this, and we can just do this test, and we don't have to, fewer office visits." Great, I love it. Now they sent it, and the first thing I noticed is that it said now it is a cell connection, not going to be able to connect to my Wi-Fi. And I said, guys, now you're going to see how this ties in. I said, guys, this won't work. Oh, no, no, it works great. Well, from the roof of my house, I can see the cell towers off in the distance, just like, you can see the semaphore flags across the valley. However, the antennas are pointed towards the highway and not necessarily to me. So yes, I do get some coverage, but that was an abject failure. And it took two devices that they sent out. They were absolutely convinced this is going to work. They said, well, look, we even used your address and we plugged it in, and the network that we used, which happened to be Verizon, said, no, no, there's a great signal there. Bullshit. There's no future proofing that works for that until, well, what? Now, by the way, if you aren't doing a bonus, if you aren't doing Wi-Fi calling and you have Wi-Fi throughout your house like I do, then you're making a mistake. Wi-Fi calling used to be cutting edge. I was early on in this thing, but I can tell you that Wi-Fi calling is a godsend in a lot of ways, and you should check that out to make your life easier. Now, how about this? How about this thing, which is, there was a guy at the timeshare, one of the timeshares I'm in, and I would go see him and say, hey, your Wi-Fi sucks. Your signal sucks. And Gary looked at me. I won't tell you his last name. Gary looked at me with all the confidence of a naive, unknowing, techno nobody and said, well, John, we've got a 5-year plan. What are you talking about? They never worked for Stalin and he shot people. Well, thank God he's now gone. They still have a plan, but they don't understand. So you can't future-proof Wi-Fi because it's going to keep growing and keep moving. So whatever you buy today, take that mental understanding that that money is gone and you're going to have to go out and buy more down the road. Next one is my solar system. I have a solar system for 9.5 years. I have been basically not paying anything to the power companies, connect charges and nonsense like that. And but I'm one of those people. So when somebody says to me, well, geez, if we ought to go green, I ask them how many panels they have. And when they tell me none, I say, what the hell's wrong with you? This is an unknown technology. Now, there's 2 million roofs in California. Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he was governor, made a bold prediction and said, how do we motivate Californians to get 1 million roofs? Well, I can tell you that they're not going to go there anywhere now because, well, they cut the incentive, right? Because we're all driven by incentives. We're all driven by what's going on. And now they only pay you a fraction of what you generate. So there you go. Now I just burn off the excess because they're not going to pay me shit anyway. But here's the deal is that I need to now think about upgrading my system after 9.5 years for a simple reason. When I started out, batteries were mega expensive. And because the power is so unreliable in Southern California, I don't know about the rest of California, but where I live, it is terribly unreliable. And it's like being in a third world country. I used to say Argentina. Don't say that anymore because I don't want to insult people in Argentina. I'm in like South Chad in Africa. The power goes out. So I need to figure out how to get I need a battery so I can use my solar when the idiots shut off my power. Now, here's the fun part. I have to do an upgrade. And now this is like good fucking luck because to do an upgrade means I have to change a bunch of stuff. And I call the people who I would need to do the upgrade with. And I'm on my own to go find people who can sift and sort through this. So if you want to know this whole climate thing and why I believe it's a grift, whether you believe it's real or not, I'm going to tell you, I don't take them seriously because they make all these protestations and platitudes and all that, then make life easier for those of us who will spend the money. I didn't do it for climate change. I did it for economic reasons And that should be the only reason why you should have to worry about this is, do it because we have the right incentive to do it. However, you know what? Don't make it so damn hard. So obsolescence, which is what we're talking about for future proofing, is going to be accelerated by AI. Everything that you own today, everything, your phone, your computer, your pad, your TV, your refrigerator, whatever you own, AI will change how that will work and make it obsolete. In fact, if you really want to have I'll give you a quick warning, is that whatever computer you're going to buy next, make sure you buy lots and lots and lots of RAM. That's my prediction for the future because we're going to be running AI models sooner than later, just like we run browsers today. And we're going to want to have that stuff in our own hands. So you're going to have to do that. But prices of RAM, because of the demand for AI, have gone up and gone up fast. Historical point of view, I used to sell a high-speed memory for a very specialized system that grabs satellite data. And we were, for those of you who are complaining about high RAM prices today, it was $5,000 a megabyte, not a gigabyte. And it was $40,000 for an 8 megabyte board. Yikes. Here's what I have to say. No, that technology will continue to push forward. Thank goodness. And that it is better to ride the waves than to wait for the next, and next evolving whatever. You can't stop evolving. It's going to keep happening, but forever more. Don't ever kid yourself that whatever you buy today isn't going to be obsolete tomorrow. And therefore, we're going to be on this continuous cycle. If you don't want to be in that cycle, go up to the mountains, get yourself a patch of dirt, go off grid, and hunker down. Because all I can tell you is that technology will continue to advance. All you have to do is go back and look at 100 years ago and look at what was high tech at the time and realize that it is not even close to being a joke today. And with that, this has been John Paul Mendoza, the Raging Verbalist. And I'm going to tell you one last thing, which is, hey, go check out my book, would you? Go do that. You can get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, and wherever it's sold. You can get a physical one. You go to positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com. Also, you can get it Kindle, Nook, and iBooks. And with that, hopefully you have learned to do a little bit of future proofing, but really don't kid yourself. There is no such thing as future proofing. It's just make it work today, utilize what you can, and then do the best you possibly can. Until next time, this is John Paul Mendoza, Dr. Speed Selling, and this has been the Raging Verbalist, and we are out.